All right, let's talk about what might just be the single most important process for, well, all life on Earth. It's happening all around you right now, every single second. It's the silent engine that powers our entire world. And yeah, we're talking about photosynthesis. So let me start with a really big question for you. If you had to pick just one chemical reaction, the one that is the foundation for pretty much every food web out there, the one that literally creates the air that we're breathing right now, what would it be?
Well, here it is. This is the one, a fundamental recipe for photosynthesis. You take 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, add 6 molecules of water, throw in some light energy, and what do you get? You get 1 molecule of glucose, that's sugar, pure energy, and 6 molecules of life giving oxygen as a byproduct. It's so elegant, so essential. And now we're going to break down exactly how it all happens.
Okay, so to really understand this engine, we have to start with its most critical part, right? We've got to look at the molecule that actually captures the sunlight and, gives plants that iconic green color. And that pigment, of course, is chlorophyll. But here's what's so cool about it. The reason it looks green to us is actually kind of ironic. See, chlorophyll is an absolute champion at soaking up light from the blue and red parts of the spectrum. But green light, it doesn't want it. It reflects it away. So the color we see is literally the light the plant is rejecting for energy. Wild, right?
The way it's built is just brilliant. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a tiny little satellite dish. That big porphyrin ring, that's the dish, perfectly shaped to catch photons of light. Right in the middle, you've got a magnesium ion, which keeps the whole thing stable and is crucial for grabbing that light energy. And then there's this long hydrocarbon tail. Think of it like an anchor. It holds the whole molecule exactly where it needs to be, deep inside the chloroplast, which is where all the magic really happens.
All right, so we've got our solar collector. Now let's get into the process itself. Because you see, capturing the light is really just step one of a super clever two-part recipe for turning sunlight, water, and air into sugar. The whole thing is basically split into two main stages. First, you've got the light dependent reactions. And hey, name kind of gives it away, right? They need sunlight. And then you have the light independent reactions, which we'll often hear called the Calvin cycle. And these can happen anytime, day or night. So let's put them side by side to see how this works. The light reactions, they happen inside these little sacs called thylakoids. They use sunlight to do something amazing. They rip water molecules apart, which releases oxygen. And at the same time, they create these little energy packets, kind of like rechargeable batteries. We call them ATP and NADPH. Then the Calvin cycle kicks in, over in a different area called the stroma. It takes those fully charged batteries, grabs CO2 from the air, and uses that power to build the sugar. See how they work together? Yeah, so the best way to remember this is to think of the Calvin cycle as the plant's sugar factory. The light reactions generate all the electricity, and the Calvin cycle is the assembly line that uses that power to churn out the final product, turning plain old carbon dioxide gas into the carbs that fuel everything the plant does. But, and there's always a but with nature, right? This basic process we've been talking about, what scientists call C3 photosynthesis, it's not perfect. It works great when conditions are just right, nice and mild. But how often is nature that simple? Not very. So this challenge forced plants to evolve some seriously clever workarounds. So what happens when things get tough? When it gets really hot or super dry? Well, that standard recipe starts to fail. The plant finds itself in a real bind. It has to choose between opening up to get the CO2 it needs or staying closed to hold on to its precious water. And the root of the problem is this one key enzyme called ribosco. Its whole job is to grab CO2 out of the air. But as this quote puts it, it's notoriously inefficient. It's a bit of a slacker, actually. When a plant gets stressed and closes its pores, the CO2 levels inside the leaf plummet and oxygen levels spike. Rubisco gets confused and starts grabbing oxygen by mistake. This whole wasteful process is called photorespiration, and it basically wastes a ton of energy and undoes all that hard work. So, to get around this problem, evolution cooked up a couple of brilliant upgrades. We can see the three major strategies right here. You've got C3, that's the original model. Works great in cool, damp places. Then you have C4 plants, think corn or sugarcane. They thrive in hot, sunny climates because they have this special shuttle system that pumps CO2 directly to Rubisco so it doesn't get confused. And then you have the true masters of the desert, cam plants. I mean, for plants trying to survive in the driest places on Earth, we're talking cacti, succulents, that kind of thing, the absolute name of the game is saving water. It's not just a nice to have advantage, it is literally the only way they can stay alive. And their trick is incredible. Cam plants only open their pores, their stomata, at night when it's cool. They gulp in all the CO2 they need and store it as an acid. Then, during the blazing hot day, they seal themselves up tight and use that stored up CO2 to do their photosynthesis. And just look at the result. This chart shows you just how much better they are at this. It's a staggering improvement. We're talking about 6 times more water efficient than your average C3 plant. Wow. This incredible piece of natural engineering, something that's been perfected over billions of years of trial and error, well, it's now inspiring a whole new wave of human technology. And it's technology that's aimed at solving some of our absolute biggest challenges. We're finally learning how to copy nature's blueprint. By digging into the nitty gritty details of how photosynthesis works, scientists are now actually building devices that can do the exact same thing. Use sunlight to create fuel right out of thin air and water. And this is what brings us to the artificial leaf. So, what is it? It's basically a biohybrid device. It mimics a real leaf. It captures sunlight and uses that energy to turn carbon dioxide into useful stuff, just like a plant. But instead of just making sugar for itself, the goal here is to create clean fuels and other valuable chemicals for us. So, why is this such a big deal? Well, think about this. The chemical industry, the industry that makes everything from our medicines to our plastics, is responsible for about 6% of all global carbon emissions. That is huge. Trying to get the fossil fuels out of that industry is a monumental task, and artificial photosynthesis, it could be a real game changer. And the latest breakthroughs are making these things even better, cleaner, and way more powerful. The newest generation of these artificial leaves, like one recently developed at the University of Cambridge, uses non toxic organic stuff to capture light and then pairs it with super efficient enzymes borrowed from bacteria. The result? They can cleanly convert CO2 into fuels like formate, and they do it all without needing any fossil fuels or nasty additives. It's incredibly promising. All of which leaves us with one final, really fascinating question to think about. For billions of years, photosynthesis literally built the world we know. And now, by learning to harness its secrets, we're right on the verge of totally reshaping our own technology. So, if we can really, truly master artificial photosynthesis, I mean, think about it from clean fuel to sustainable materials, what other massive global problems could we solve next?